It's Mrs. Martin. I am here today to give a little book talk on seeking the truth. Just some different stories that are all true stories, whether it be memoir or autobiography, stories where people are talking about their own life experiences or having someone else tell their life experience as well. There are tons of different opportunities for you to look in our library catalog on Destiny Discover. There's a collection put together for you to browse under narrative nonfiction. So I'd encourage you to look there if you would like to find more stories like the ones I'm going to briefly share today. The first one I'm sharing is called A Rebel in Auschwitz. It was written by Jack Fairweather, who put together the account of a man named Witold Pilecki. This man was actually an intern at Auschwitz concentration camp when the camp was first opening in Nazi Germany. We learn in this story about how Pilecki wanted to report on Nazi crimes and wanted to find out more about what exactly was going on kind of behind the scenes. As he was working there, he was building basically a secret army. He was staging an uprising, trying to find out what was happening, but also at the same time putting together an organized group to go up against what Hitler was doing. In this story, throughout the 2.5 years that Pilecki is working there, and of course under really awful conditions, he's with others sabotaging the facilities there. He's assassinating Nazi officers. He's also compiling all of this evidence, and you learn about that, of the abuse and the mass murder that's going on inside these concentration camps. If you've learned some things about this time period, if you've read other stories, true or fictional, you'd get an opportunity to really dive in this book. And it includes pictures and diary entries, even some declassified files that show how there are people at that time, willing to risk everything, including their own lives, for others. Take a look at this book, find out more. Life in Motion by Misty Copeland is her true story of being a history-making ballerina. Misty recounts her story here. She's the first African-American ballerina at the prestigious American Ballet Theater. And from the moment that she first placed her hands on the bar at an after-school community center, people believed she wasn't going to be much of anything. She came to dance later in life. As a child, she was 13 at the time, and no one was expecting that this girl, undersized, underprivileged, kind of anxious, was going to become one of America's first, really kind of groundbreaking dancers. She was a prodigy by the truest sense of the form. She was an expert in her field very quickly and was attempting in months roles that it took most dancers years to master. Read her story, find out how she finds the courage to be one of a kind. A Child Called It by Dave Peltzer is a really hard read, but an inspirational story and one that people talk about after having read it. This talks about an unforgettable account of one of the most severe child abuse cases in California history, even to this day. And it was written, years ago, but it continues to be a story that is brought up. It's the story of Dave Peltzer. He was brutally beaten and starved by his emotionally unstable alcoholic mother. She, not by any reason, just because for her own mental illness and addiction, called her son it. Really thought of him as not a person, but as an object, and considered him not to be worthy of love or attention. She maybe sometimes allowed him food, but it was really nothing more than spoiled scraps that she wouldn't even let the dogs eat. And the outside world didn't know anything about what was going on for Dave when he was a young kid. He didn't have anybody to turn to, but it was his dreams of someone someday taking care of him and loving him and calling them his son. He believed that would be a possibility, and that's what kept him alive. Read about his courage to survive in this book. Another story, The Code Breaker. This is the story of Jennifer Doudna. She was only in 6th grade when she came home and found the book, The Double Helix, on her bed. That was the story, the book, I should say, the account of James Watson and Francis Crick's discovery of the structure of DNA. Well, this book in 6th grade caused Jennifer to focus her studies not actually on DNA, but on the structure of RNA, which was closely related, and it enabled the genetic instructions coded in DNA to express themselves. And that's what allowed her interest and her focus. She wanted to then become an expert in determining what exactly caused the shape and structure of RNA molecules. As a result of this interest, her expertise allowed her to develop a revolutionary new technique that could edit human genes. Okay, well, so what, right? What's the big deal about that? The thing is, it has led to all kinds of gene editing technologies that are being used to eliminate genetic defects. It's leading to changes in all kinds of health disorders. And because of it as well, today, even right now, Jennifer and her team are working toward things as current as the coronavirus. So things like that are being being affected because of the work that she's doing. If you have a real interest and passion for science, how the genetics work, this would be a fabulous book to pick up and read. Proud by Ibtihaj Muhammad is the young reader's edition of this book. Fencing Olympian Muhammad talks about her new book in this clip that we're going to watch, and this is her story because at the 2016 Olympic Games, she absolutely smashed the record here. She was the first American to compete wearing hijab and made history as the first Muslim American woman to win a medal. Let's take a look and listen here, find out what that was like for her, and get a little glimpse into what her story's about.
Sell online and grow your business with Wix e-commerce. Create a beautiful...
Hi everyone, I'm Joy Wade. I'm here with NBC BLK. We're here with Ibtihaj Muhammad, and today we are celebrating her book that is releasing today. Would you like to tell us about your book?
Yeah, hi Joy, Ibtihaj here. I have a book coming out today. It's called Proud, My Fight for an Unlikely American Dream. And it was such a therapeutic moment in my life to write a book, but also pretty hard. And I'm really excited to share my story with everyone. I know that we get a small glimpse into Olympic athletes' lives during the games, and to, I guess, lend a tighter scope into my life as an athlete and what it was like to be an African American, a Muslim woman, coming to age in the sport of fencing was quite hard, but I'm excited to share my story with the world today.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So when did you realize that fencing was the sport that you're going to stick with and that you're going to take to the Olympics?
So I started fencing at 12 years old. My parents were looking for a sport for me to play where I could be covered. I'm a Muslim woman. I cover everything with the exception of my face and my hands, and fencers do the same. We wear long jackets, we wear long pants. And my mom is like, I don't know what it is, but I want you to try it out. And that's how I got started in fencing. It wasn't until after I graduated from Duke in 2007 where I kind of embarked on this journey to qualify for my first national team. I wanted to change the face of Team USA. There had never been a woman of color on the United States Women's Saber team. And I said, you know what, why not? Let's try, let's go for it. Really hard to, constantly compete and try to increase your world ranking to make a U.S. team.
Right.
And I was very blessed and fortunate to do it 8 times in a row and find myself on the Olympic team.
Awesome.
Incredible person, incredible story. Read her book, Proud. Another great book to take a look at is Augusta Savage, The Shape of a Sculptor's Life. Augusta was an incredible, influential American artist of the 1930s, and her peak of her artistry was during the Harlem Renaissance. She really became a teacher to an entire generation of African American artists. But after being denied an artist's fellowship abroad, an opportunity to go and learn more on the basis of her race, Augusta worked to continue advancing equal rights in the arts. She believed that was incredibly important, and she put forward all kinds of efforts to do so. This book is incredible. It's just full of photographs of Savage's stunning sculpture, and it's an opportunity for you to see how this incredible, exceptional artist, despite all of the limits that were put in place due to the time period in which she was alive, as well as the limits that were in place just historically for women, that she was compelled to kind of move forward in a life of art and creativity. If you are an artist yourself, if you'd like to pursue art, please pick up this book. The last one I wanted to share today is Notes from a Black Chef. This is Kwame Onwuachi's memoir, and it's the story of how, in this adapted for young adults version, he really got into cooking and enjoyed doing so as it being his first great love. He talks about in the stories connecting to cooking with his mom as a young kid. They grew up in the Bronx and in a very small apartment. He talks about actually his own catering company got started selling candy on the subway, and he made $20,000 doing so over years of time. As a result of that, hardworking man. He faced a lot of challenges on the road to success, including breaking free of really a lot of opportunities for temptation, some ways to make some easy money, and he didn't see that as being his road to success. And because of that, it really allowed him to find his passion and his efforts and all the hard work that moved forward. He also mentions in here a number of times how difficult it can be to be in the world of fine dining, because for a person of color, that world can be unwelcoming in some ways, and he's looking to change that. Notes from a Young Black Chef. And anyone interested in cooking, I think would enjoy picking up this book. I forgot that I had one other book to share, so sorry, this is not the last one. I actually have one more to end our book talk with today. This one, called Obsessed, is a woman's story where she's looking back at her as herself as a teenager. This is her story about being a teen and what it was like to be in high school and recognize that something was not quite right. Until she was a sophomore, Allison Britz lived what she would say was really a comfortable life in a town that felt, kind of like a picture-perfect town. She was a real dedicated student. She had a good home life. From the outside, everything looked like it was all together. But she had this awful dream that she woke up from. She had dreamt that she was diagnosed with brain cancer, and she was convinced that this dream had been a warning, and decided that this dream was something that she needed to continue thinking about, and she all of a sudden could not stop thinking about it. And then the obsessions started. Everything from avoiding sidewalk cracks to counting steps as loudly as possible. She started to avoid hair dryers, calculators, computers, anything green, oatmeal, most of her own clothing. It was clear that these thoughts were getting in the way of Allison's life moving forward in a healthy fashion, and she was getting debilitated. She finally allowed herself, especially after friends and family were expressing concern, to ask for help, and she was diagnosed with OCD, or obsessive compulsive disorder. In this memoir, she talks about not only how it felt to kind of fall into this disorder and how paralyzing it felt, but also the hopeful climb out of the depths. And she talks about mental illness and mental health and the importance of finding, a balance in all of that. I hope one of these books strikes you and is one that you think you'd pick up, as always. We've got, like I said, plenty of others. Again, thinking back to my first slide, the narrative nonfiction collection on Destiny to Discover has tons of other ideas. If you're looking for a true story to read, we have many other people that you could pick up a story about. There's something really compelling about reading something that is true, and I hope it's something you'll consider. Thanks so much for your attention. Happy reading.